We're out here today to ensure our constitutional rights are respected by those that swore an oath to support, protect, and defend the rights of the people. The purpose of all interactions is to peacefully promote government accountability and transparency. This is a public service.
Michael.
Hello. There he is right there. I was just calling to let him know his 1 o'clock was here. And he just came up the stairs.
Here to see me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Come on over. Right over here.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Good, I'm Bill.
Foshin.
I'm sorry?
Foshin.
Potion? Bill. Bill, nice to meet you.
George. Nice to meet you, sir.
How you guys doing?
Tom Carrino. George. Nice to meet you, sir.
Oh, here we go.
These all local pictures here? You folks,
Yeah, those are local landmarks.
And I'm sorry, Tom. I didn't. I'm not sure what do you do for the city?
I'm the Director of Human Resources, I'm sorry.
And I'm city manager.
Thank you. Well, I think you know why we're here today. I didn't speak with you, but I spoke with your secretary, and I can't even remember if I sent some emails about it or not. But I'm concerned about behavior from employees here that the behavior is really, it was abhorrent to treat members of the public like that. That we were just in here filming as is our right to do. So I'm curious what what kind of corrective action is being taken, and what we can expect in the future when we this is that was my second visit into the city. I'm not sure if you guys know that or not, but I had a visit in November where Sally included, treated me with respect, and I was doing the same exact thing that I was doing this time around, So just help me understand maybe what happened, and then what's going to happen to kind of correct that.
Sure. Well, several things are happening. Specifically, employees involved in the most recent incident. We have counseled them related to how to appropriately handle similar situations in the future. And so we've talked to them individually, but then we are also getting materials out to employees in general about how to appropriately handle similar situations. And so we've worked with our city attorney and with our insurance company to put together educational materials for our city employees, explaining how to appropriately react to folks that are recording or videotaping in our city facilities. And so we're working to educate our employees on how to professionally and appropriately deal with those situations. And that includes, we're also working with our insurance company. They're planning to do some online training in February. And so we'll be looking to be involved in that training opportunity, and then to get that distributed to all of our employees, again, for educational purposes on how to professionally and appropriately deal with the situation.
Okay. Can you tell me what exactly counseling looks like in the city of Eustis?
Sure.
Maybe let's start here. Did you see the videos that were on his phone?
I believe I did.
Okay. Is there a policy within the city? Are city employees allowed to video record members of the public?
I don't think we have a city policy that prohibits that. Is that correct?
There is no policy that prohibits it
Okay.
from the city employees. And in fact, we encourage it with some employees, for example, the police, the body cameras, or we've done that. We found it to be a useful tool for law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
In essence, no different than what you did when you came in to document behavior, facts, events of what happened.
Right.
So we have not prohibited employees from doing it. We encourage it for law enforcement. Obviously, we haven't encouraged it for others.
Let me ask this, with that not being a policy, have you instructed these folks that when they're on the clock, they're making a recording that's pursuant to their work, whether they think it's a security video to make sure that they're safe or whatever have you, not that that then becomes a public record. They're no longer allowed to delete it. They have to retain that, because we do record request, obviously, the information that these people make, and the courts have already stated that no matter, what device you're using, if you're using it in a work-related capacity, it then becomes a public record, no different than if they were using their private email to send emails about city business, right? So has there been any education as to the employees on that aspect of them taking film?
It was certainly part of our discussion related to this incident that any videos taken were public record.
Okay. All
So
right.
does it trouble you that when I made the initial public records request for the footage on his phone that I was only given half of what was taken, and that he withheld what was potentially incriminating or made him look poor? I believe the word was fucking losers was the word that he used. It doesn't seem as if that was just recorded on his phone. The statement was made as if he was disseminating it to somebody else, to some network that he's a part of. So, I don't know if that happened. I would like to know if that happened. I would like to know where that went, because he wasn't talking to the camera. He was obviously talking to someone. Do those types of things concern you guys? And maybe what are we doing about, there's the action, right? And then there's the action after the action where he's trying to hide what happened. So those are concerns that I have as not only a journalist but a member of the public.
Well, all I can speak to is that there were two videos that were responsive to the public records request, and while they came separately, they did come in a pretty timely way. So I can't speak to. All I can say is there were two videos responsive to the request, and they came to you in a pretty timely manner.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not debating whether or not they ended up getting to me. But would the second one have come to me had I not said, "Listen, two videos were taken. Where's the second video?" So there's some space in there where honesty. You guys want honesty from the people that you hire here, right? I mean. A lie by omission is still a lie, right? That was a question.
Again, the two videos that were responsive to your request were sent in a pretty timely way. I'm not going to speculate as to the timing or the manner. But so maybe I can, the initial video we actually had on file, and that was sent right away. We then, when we asked Daniel to produce the second video, that then came shortly thereafter. So, I mean, that was the timing of those two videos coming. Was we had easy access to the first video, which we sent right away. The second video we secured and then sent when we had received it.
Can we just look into where he disseminated the second video, because it's clear that he disseminated it somewhere?
We can ask.
I would find troubling if a city employee is calling members of the public fucking losers on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. I feel that gives the city a bad look. Just like if a member of Olive Garden was saying that their customers are fucking losers and disseminating that on their Facebook, that has a bad look to it. So, regardless of his personal opinion of people that hold the government accountable, he should always remain professional. That's something that we should strive for. As public, service members, that's something that we should expect, right? Because we expect no less when we go out to private businesses, right? We expect professional service, whether it's Outback, Logan's, Olive Garden, wherever, right? AT&T. So we shouldn't be getting less service or less professional service because we're not actually paying them out of pocket. They're getting the money through their taxes and stuff like that. So I know sometimes it doesn't feel like we're customers or clients because we're kind of forced to use the municipality we live in's utilities or building permits or whatever have you not. But I think that level of service should still be, top notch. So that's what we look for. That's part of the reason we're out here, is to make sure that service that every citizen gets, not just us, because you can go onto Google and see that there's a lot of bad reviews for a lot of cities in the state of Florida, all over the country, really, and we just want that same level of service, because I work in the private field, and so if I was ever to call one of my customers a loser or just act disrespectful or not professional, I'd be looking for another job, and that's what the citizens want of the public officials. Now we know a lot of times nothing's going to happen, in instances in a lot of municipalities. It's a good old boy system, and the sheriff's cousin is also the county attorney and such like that. So we know all that. But the reason that we're out here specifically, me and this young man, is because we're tired of it. It's been going on for a long, long time now. Cities are deep, deep in debt. Counties are deep, deep in debt. States are deep, deep in debt. And the whole country is deep, deep in debt. And we're deep, deep in debt because we've been allowing people to just run amok and do what they want. And that's why we get the attitudes we get now when we come in to City Hall and building departments and stuff like that, because people no longer understand who they work for. They think they work for the city or the state or some magical entity where there's no accountability because, hey, my boss does the same thing, or my boss is hardly around because he's playing golf or whatever, little thing that people have going on. And I've covered all these stories. So we just want to let people know that we are back in town. We'll always be back in town now. If not me, if not him, there'll be somebody else. Because we want accountability. And the city government, like you folks, should want accountability as well, because once you're out of those positions, you're back to being a citizen, right? So it behooves all of us to make sure that everything's running good, not just for us, our kids, our grandkids later on down the line. Just because you're city manager today doesn't mean your grandkid will be, So we want to make sure that we level that same amount of respect for everybody. Any more questions? Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah, just to circle back to the counseling, he made a good point that maybe I glossed over. There was, there was one, him not knowing what we were doing was, was allowed. But then there is that level of professionalism. So, what action is going to be taken for that? What does counseling look like? I mean, is it just saying, oh, you can't call members of the public fucking losers? Well, he should have known that prior to that day that is inappropriate behavior. So, when confronted with that, I'm not looking for Daniel to get fired. I'm not looking for Sally to get fired, or even Michael, because Michael was unprofessional in the beginning as well. I'm not sure if you saw my footage, but he walked out before Daniel came out. He gave the old eye roll, like, oh, what are these guys doing? And then he walked back, and then Daniel came out. So this isn't something that it's not isolated. There's a problem, right? And I understand you guys are going to deal with the First Amendment aspect of that, but what does counseling look like? What's going to happen? What happened to Daniel? Was it just that you can't swear at the public? Didn't he already know that?
So the department director sat down with both Daniel and Sally, went over again how to appropriately deal with these situations in a professional way, and then written materials then followed up to all employees, discussing First Amendment, and again how to deal with the situation appropriately and professionally. So Daniel and Sally received verbal counseling on professional and appropriate behavior, and then all employees received follow-up written materials on, again, how to deal with these situations and be professional and deal with it appropriately.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry. Is there a way that we can see these printed materials?
Yeah, I
Good
actually
copies
brought a
of them?
copy.
I'd like to look that over. I know he's got a question for you. So.
Yeah, so it sounds like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not, I'm not trying to be accusatory or anything like that, but it just sounds like you told him he can't do something that he should have already known he couldn't do, right? Am I right? Like if you know not to call somebody a fucking loser, whether they have a camera out or not, right? Especially in your role as the city manager, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I'm going to assume, and maybe this is a big stretch, but I'm going to assume that he knew that, acting that way is not right. So, you guys saying to him, hey, Daniel, you can't call people fucking losers. That's the extent of things.
That is, I guess, the first part of training and education.
Okay, well, so there's no level of training prior to employment where we say, okay, because I've read the Florida statutes on ethics for employees of municipalities. So are they told to read these statutes that cover ethics and how to behave, or are they just allowed to run roughshod over the city, and once something is brought to the light, then it gets handled?
As part of our employee orientation, we have a number of materials. I don't think it specifically references certain areas of the statutes to review. But we have a series of materials that we present to employees when they're hired.
And I imagine, professionalism is among those standards, and would I be correct in assuming that?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
We expect our employers to treat everyone, whether they're carrying a camera or not, with respect, with the same respect they'd want to be treated when they went somewhere else.
Okay,
That's their expectation.
all right. So I mean, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. I'm not out here trying to get Daniel fired. But you telling me that his counseling was being told that he can't curse at the public. Well, I mean, sirs, he should know these things, right? I mean, if they're not common sense, they should be common sense, right? So I mean, is there something going to happen to Daniel? I mean, can we get an apology from Daniel for the behavior? I mean,
I don't know what our past practice is to related to employees and apologies to the public.
well, what would you what would you want? If you were sitting in my seat and I was the city manager and I brought these problems to you, is an apology something that's beyond the pale? I understand that you guys think that the behavior is wrong, right? And we can all agree on that. But it sounds like he doesn't. I mean, where's the consequence? Action consequence. We all have to be accountable for the choices that we make, right? So it just doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of accountability that's filtering down to the people that are that are rude to the public. And please correct me if I'm not seeing this properly or not seeing it as it is. And I'm not trying to I'm not out here to make Eustis look bad. That's not my intent. If you've looked at any of the videos on my channel, you can see that it's just a camera. How people interact with me is how I interact with them. I've got plenty of, Castleberry's a great instance. I was just there and they were great. Everybody in the whole city was great. They were kind, they were friendly, they treated with dignity and respect. And I put that video out because that's what happened. My first time here, it was a mixed bag. So, what, you guys understand what I'm asking, right? I mean, that's my curiosity is, it doesn't sound like a whole lot's happening, and that's troubling. I would like an apology. I mean, I don't think that's unreasonable. I don't think you would feel differently if somebody treated you like that, even in your position as the city manager, if they were wrong. I don't want to come in here and call you names. That's not what I'm here for.
Well, from me, I apologize in that that the situation could have been handled more professionally and more appropriately, and so I apologize that that's the level of service that you received, and we are working on it.
Okay.
We are.
Right. Well, I accept your apology, but you don't know anyone. You know what I mean? I understand that you're apologizing on behalf of the city, and I accept the city's apology also. But there's another party here, right? Sally, I can almost overlook that behavior. Almost overlook that behavior. It wasn't much better, but I can at least wrap my head around that. That she had a concern about safety, and maybe if she just calmed down a little bit, things like this wouldn't escalate. But yeah, I'm not gonna just continue to belabor the same point. I've said what I said. So.
What I'm interested in here is your material that you put out. There's some good stuff in here that you guys have put in there. I want to make sure that you folks know, and I'm only talking for myself, I'm not talking for any other auditor or person that would record the government, but some of us have a passion to keep government accountable. Others do it for clicks and views. Others do it, for whatever their personal reasons may be, The fact that sometimes our rights are abused by, let's say, like the Westboro Baptist Church, right? You gentlemen know who they are, correct?
Yes.
I think most Americans would agree that they abuse the right to free speech, right? They do it in vile terms and target people, veterans, funerals, and a lot of Americans consider it disgusting. However, that's their right, and it has to be upheld, correct? Because the founders said it's not the rights that we all agree with. It's not the speech that we all agree with that needs protecting, right? It's the speech that we don't agree with that needs protecting. And the same thing goes with government. Yes, it can be uncomfortable having a person come in with a camera, right? And watch what you do at work. Maybe some people do find that uncomfortable. But unfortunately, because we've allowed the government to kind of run itself, we found all kinds of issues with that approach. Do any of you gentlemen know about the Dozier School for Boys?
It doesn't ring a bell for me.
Oh, man.
It was a boys' prison here in Florida. It ran for about 100 years. And they've just recently dug up 80 unmarked graves of young boys that were raped and murdered by state employees. Okay? More murders than any mass murderer, serial killer in American history occurred at our boys' facility here in Florida that was overseen by government employees. No one was ever prosecuted for this crime. Okay? So, when I see failure on levels such as these, it then becomes my duty, your duty as a citizen, to help the government, because obviously it's having an issue watching over, what's going on. I'll give you an example closer to home. Here in Eustis, the 1884 building, where the city paid $250,000 for it, turned it around and sold it to the mayor's buddy, the two realtors, $160,000. Let them pay $500 down with no credit check in order to buy the building. And the city took, a $55,000 loss right off the bat on that? Right? So citizens are tired of hearing about these things when we get the opportunity to hear them, because we know how the media works. I have friends that work in the local news stations and stuff, and they tell me how they have to portray the government in a good light in order to get the exclusives and, get the reports that they get. So we know how it all works. And we're tired of that. That's why the citizens have gone to the street. We haven't gone to the street, myself, to make money. I make half of what I make when I work my regular job and I own a small business. So I'm making less than half that I was sitting here with this camera than I do doing my normal job. But I realize that at the level of debt we're in now and the level of money that we expend to pay for government services now, when my 10-year-old daughter reaches my 50 years of age, is she going to be working 7, 8, 9 months out of the year to pay for government when we lose $55,000 on a building here just so we can get our buddies in to a sweet deal? So people are, a little bit perturbed by that. So that's why people have started coming out, Everybody that picks up a camera, when we start out on YouTube, we don't get paid for it. We only get paid after we meet a certain margin. So it's not like people are getting rich off doing this, right? We're doing this because it has to be done. The intent of the right to free press, as spoken by our founders in the Continental Congress in 1774, was said to shame our public officials and to doing what is noble, right? That's what the people that founded this country said that the right to free press was, because there was insane amounts of corruption even back then. I know we all think that it was a magical time and, you know, our founders and everybody were just generous and giving men that only wanted the best for the common man against human nature of the past 2,000 years. But the fact was is they were smugglers, they were criminals, and they were part of a conspiracy to overthrow the British government. They were probably some of the biggest conspiracy theorists known in the world, right? Because by the definition of a conspiracy, it's a group of men who plot to do something against the law. And when you're part of a nation like Britain and you plan to overthrow it, that in itself is a conspiracy. So the American Revolution was one of the biggest conspiracies in the world. Our forefathers, smugglers, corrupt, conspiracy theorists, overthrew England, okay? And part of the intent of the free press, because they realized how corrupt the king could be, right? How much power that the nobles wielded over the common man, right? Because it was the nobles that were running the colonies, right? Like William Penn, he had gotten his charter from the king himself, right? And that's pretty much how it started. Most people think people just got on a boat and came over to America, but it was actually corporations that actually founded the country. And corporations were given their corporate charters by the king himself, right? So we know all this, right? And we know the intent of what is needed in order to keep free government free, right? Free press, the fourth estate, checks and balances, right? That's what the right to free press is. I'm sure you gentlemen know it. I've heard it called the fourth estate, the checks and balances on the government, right? That's what we're finally getting around to doing, right? We're not CNN over here. You won't see Kim Kardashian on our news reports, right? You won't see the San Francisco Giants on our news reports. You'll be seeing, you know, government officials, public records, contracts that cities are getting involved in. Do you know that Bellevue built a police department that's earthquake proof? In Florida, they spent an extra $300,000 to make their police department earthquake proof. So we see things like that, right? We know things like that are not up to the smell test, right? When was the last time we had an earthquake here? I've been here 50 years. I don't remember an earthquake. Not enough to go spend the $300,000. If we was in California, which they don't even make a lot of their buildings earthquake proof, but if we were, that would make sense, you know? So we see and we know and we'll keep looking. So it's important that employees realize what our rights are. And in here you have some good stuff and you have some bad stuff. The public forum stuff that you guys have tried to put in here, we have to understand. The public forum deals with expressive acts only. Protesting, speech, right? It doesn't deal with recording, okay? The DC Circuit Court case that just came out, Price v. Garland, okay, in the DC Circuit Court, said that the public forum doctrine does not regulate recording because recording is a non-expressive act, right? So if I was to come into City Hall, where I'm legally allowed to be as a citizen, right? And I have a notebook, and I take out my notebook, and I jot down notes about my novel, okay? It's a First Amendment protected activity, okay? The act of publishing the novel is expressive, right? I'm getting it out there. It's now expressive. But the act of actually writing the novel is non-expressive. I may never publish it, right? How many authors have thrown book ideas out the window, right? So recording is non-expressive. I don't attempt to express any views, to anybody that I'm talking to or recording. You know what I mean? So non-expressive. So keep that in mind, because a lot of cities have tried to circumvent what we do by testing out this non-public forum thing. And we're suing them. We're suing the cities for doing this. And it's costing the taxpayers money. And I wanted to let you guys know ahead of time, because there are people on the internet that go against us, that try to act like they have some legal knowledge, right? They send letters to cities and say, oh, they're not allowed to record. But anywhere the public is allowed to be, we're allowed to record. And we'll know this to be true when we look at the wiretap statute, okay? It's illegal to record a private conversation, right? We all know this. It's called the wiretap statute. Can't record somebody on the phone, have to let them know you're recording. Can't go into someone's private office and record them. That's illegal, right? The wiretap statute. But the wiretap statute only applies where there's no expectation of privacy, right? Like in a private office. Anywhere the public can go, the citizen can go, he can have a secret recording device on him. And it's totally legal. Okay, so I can come in here to City Hall all day long, as long as it's a place where the public can go, non-restrictive area, and I can record secretly. You know, I got a little pen camera, I got glasses camera. I'm giving people notice that I'm recording by carrying a big rig, but I could come in and secretly record, and it's still legal. So we have to understand that. Anywhere the public's allowed, that's where they're allowed to record, right? And that should be basic common sense. No privacy in public. We all know these terms, right? No privacy in public. That's why Walmart can capture our video. That's why the police on their body cam can capture people's video, right? So it behooves us to understand these basic concepts of freedom, right? Because again, at some point in your lives, your family's not going to work for government. What kind of conditions are they going to be put under? You know? So that's all I have for you gentlemen. Can I take this, or can I copies
Yes.
of it? Okay.
Could you make another copy so I could?
I've got a second copy here. You're welcome to.
Thank you.
Sure.
And you know, I don't have any other questions. I appreciate you guys taking the time. You know, I appreciate you taking the time and sitting down about this.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll be back again.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to go down and see if they have any candy down there at the counter before I leave. Just a Jolly Rancher or something. Because public candy is a beautiful way to help recoup some of the taxes that I pay.
You do understand most that public candy is provided by the secretaries.
Is it?
We are not the city that pay.
Oh, okay.
But you're welcome to whatever they put out.
Oh, absolutely.
And gentlemen, I was serious about the apology. You know, if somebody, you know,
Little,
I am serious about that. I would like an apology from Daniel. I don't think that is too much to ask.
it's there, it's provided by.
I don't think it's too much to ask. So I appreciate you meeting with me today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, then I'll let them,
Thank you.
I'll let
Thank
them do their thing. Got some stickers here. And some, what's that, church books. My girls would like that.
Have a good day.
You as
You
well.
too, gentlemen.
They left.
I don't know if I got those pictures last time, but maybe.
Let's go see Sally. Oh, was it right here?
No, that was the other one. This was the one down there. They have the George Washington Festival. Yeah, the George Fest, there it is. They do that every year, the George Fest.
I saw the word. I didn't read any of this, but I saw the word Target in there.
Yeah, most of it's decent. They could use some polishing up.
shit. You gotta be kidding me. Alright, this is transparency in Eustis, guys. Wow. They've just buttoned the whole thing up, huh? I hope they know that that doesn't really mean anything. The public candy's gone too.
Mm-hmm. Alright, you guys see that?
I wish I would have come up here first. Looked like even God was a blue line gangbanger back there, huh?
Yeah.